this meeting started. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given by posting notice on the door of our school admin offices, and notice has continued to be posted by delivering notice to the Retrospect and the Courier Post. This meeting is a special meeting of the Board of Ed for the purposes of reorganization. I will take a roll call. Mr. Chu?
Here.
Mr. Craig?
Here.
Mrs. Maya?
Here.
Mrs. Mikulski?
Here.
Mrs. Savarino?
Here.
Okay. Mrs. Seltzer?
Here.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia?
Here.
Mrs. Sherman?
Here.
Mr. Dilkus?
Here.
Mrs. Caden?
Here.
Can everybody please stand for Pledge of Allegiance? Flags right here. Thank you. I will read the results of our November election into the record. 3 board members: Sarah Sherman, congratulations, 2,112 votes. Roger Chu, 1,968 votes. And Mr. Matthew Craig, 1,919 votes. And I will now ask those 3 board members to come to the front so I can swear you in. Okay, now the fun stuff. In section 3, I'm going to ask the board, I'm very tired today, I'm going to ask the superintendent to read the school ethics, code of ethics into the record, and then everybody has a copy of the ethics statement in front of you as well as a receipt, so if you guys can sign the receipt and send it my way. Thank you.
Happy New Year and congratulations. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 18A 12-24.1, every board member will abide by the following code of ethics. The board member will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures. Make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children, and seek to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing. Confine his or her board action to policy making, planning, and appraisal, and help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them. Carry out his or her responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with fellow board members, ensure they are well run. Recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education and make no personal promises nor take any private action that may compromise the board. Refuse to surrender his or her independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups, or to use the schools for personal gain or for the gain of friends. Hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools, which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, he/she will provide accurate information and, in concert with fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for its school. Vote to appoint the best qualified personnel after consideration of the recommendation of the Chief Administrative Officer. Support and protect school personnel in the proper performance of their duties, and refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer and act on complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administrative solution.
Thank you, Dr. McDowell. Moving on to Section 4. I'm now going to take a request for nominations from board members for the office of President of the Collingswood Board of Education.
I would like to nominate Ray Kincaidin for president.
Any other nominations? Okay. Mrs. Kay, do you accept nomination?
Yes.
Okay, I will take a roll call. Mr. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mrs. Maya?
Yes.
Mrs. Mikulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Savarino?
Yes.
Mrs. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Dilkus?
Yes.
Mrs. Caden?
Yes.
Congratulations, the meeting's now yours.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back to Roger and Matt and Chris Dilkus, our Woodland rep. Glad to have all of you back with us, and welcome Sarah. Okay, so we're moving on to Section 5, election of the Vice President. Can I get a request for a nomination for Vice President?
I'd like to nominate Kate Seltzer.
Anyone else? Kate, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
So then, roll call, please.
All right, Mr. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mrs. Maya?
Yes.
Mrs. Mikulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Savarino?
Yes.
Mrs. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Dilkus?
Yes.
Mrs. Caden?
Yes. Congratulations, Ms. Seltzer. Moving on to Section 6, it's our first opportunity for public comment. The purpose for this public comment section is for items listed on the agenda, and additional, more general comments may be made later in the meeting. The public is reminded that attempts to resolve all concerns and complaints should first go through appropriate staff members and administrators. The intent of public comment is to give the community the opportunity to provide feedback to the board. We will be actively listening and taking notes so that we can take all that is being said into consideration. If appropriate, clarifying comments may be made at the end of the public comment section. For more detailed responses to concerns, communication may go out later in the week by the appropriate staff members or administrators, or be discussed by the board during future committee meetings. Members of the public are welcome to speak and expected to do so with the utmost sensitivity for everyone in attendance. In fairness to all who wish to speak, there's a strict 3-minute time limit per person during public comment. Please come to the microphone and remember to state your name and address for the record.
Wayne Rossi, 114 East Palmer Ave. I just want to give a very warm congratulations to Matt and Roger, and particularly to Sarah, who, if you had asked me who I wanted on the board before the election started, it would have been her. So thank you. You know, it's really good to see you guys, and also congratulations to Kate on being the vice president now. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. got a pretty small audience tonight, so I'm not seeing anyone else stand up. I think we're safe. Moving on to Section 7, resolutions. So 7.01 are our official meeting dates for the remainder of the year, the remainder of 2024. You'll note that there is some reserved time at some point in January on a Saturday, but we haven't determined what date would be best, so we will send out a survey to find out what date most of us can be available to make that
And
meeting. Do you have any
We need,
extra?
I did check, I didn't
tell
want to
me.
make the assumption, the high school cafe is available if we wanted to have all of our meetings here next year. I
okay,
just
great.
didn't put that on there. We've always had it at Zane, but then post-COVID, we moved here because it was more spacious, but, I don't know, I think, I like it here, but
Yeah.
I just wanted, if everybody's okay, then I'll make sure that it's on the website.
Yes, I think we're definitely in agreement
Okay.
that this is the space we'd like to have our meetings.
Gotcha.
So listed are all of the meetings that will be held, and they will be held here in the high school cafeteria. And then, like I said, we will send out something to find out what date for our board retreat works best for everyone. So that is the only section needed for this one, so we need approval of item 7.01. Is there a motion to approve this item? And a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mrs. Maya?
Yes.
Mrs. Mikulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Severino?
Yes.
Mrs. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Dilkus?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaden?
Yes. The next section are the committee appointments. For 8.01, I've, in the past couple of years, just sent out a Google Doc, or a Google form, excuse me, for everyone to fill out. It's a little bit more efficient than everyone manually writing down their preferences and us going through it. So I will send that out this evening after our meeting. Our 4 committees remain the same: Personnel, Finance, Buildings and Grounds, Policy, and Curriculum. And there will also be a space for you to indicate if you're interested or willing to serve as chair of one of those committees. So that look for in your email later this evening. 8.02 are state and local representatives. So the first one is we need a legislative representative and an alternate for the New Jersey School Boards Association. At the state level, these are quarterly meetings, 3 Saturdays per year. I believe Fiona used to do this.
Yeah, I looked up to see
Yeah.
who was so kind to volunteer last year.
Right.
So for this slot, we had Fiona and,
It was
Yes.
Kelly as an alternate. Oh, okay.
yeah,
So for the,
this was Fiona and who was this? Oh, it was Mary, was the alternate.
okay. So, so we're going to need a volunteer to be our legislative representative for the state NJSBA. There's 2 different ones. The Camden County one is the one that they actually have monthly meetings that you can go to if you so choose. So we have a representative for that, but we need one for NJSBA. Any takers?
I can do it.
Okay, so Matt, and then Mary, would you like to be the alternate again? Okay. And then the second one is for Camden County School Boards Association. Kelly, would you like to be the rep? Okay. And then, so
Roger was the alternate.
Roger was the alternate. Does that still work for you? Okay. And then the special board appointments is for Educational Services Commission. This one is slightly different. There aren't as many meetings, correct? There's maybe like twice a year? Can you help me with this one?
I think they meet more regularly. The Camden County Ed Services Commission, they're almost like another school district.
Right.
Their board is made up of reps of board members from other boards.
So I thought you went more
So-
often if you were like,
Yeah, you don't have to
elected
go
to be
as
a
often, but
bigger
if you're
rep.
like on the main trustee and
Right.
working on the budget, then yeah, you would have to be
Gotcha.
present
Okay.
more often. Last year, it was Roger and Chris were our victims.
okay, okay.
You'll do it again?
So Roger, you're okay doing that again? And Chris, would you like to be, are you good being the alternate? Okay. Thank you, everyone. And then moving on to section 10, policies and bylaws. So 10.01 is the adoption of all of our standing policies and bylaws presently in existence. And then we continue to review our policies as proposed. 10.02 is the adoption of all of our job descriptions presently in existence. And then that is all. So do we have approval of items 10.01 and 10.02?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from board members? Roll call, please.
Mr. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mrs. Maya?
Yes.
Mrs. Mikulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Savarino?
Yes.
Mrs. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheridan Celia?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Dokes?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaden?
Yes. This is our second opportunity for public comment. Everyone that was here heard me read the disclaimer in the beginning. So if you would like to speak about anything, not just something on the agenda, please stand, state your name, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Okay, so seeing that no one is standing up, I just wanted to take a minute, seeing as this is a new year for the board, so Chris, Celia, let me back up a little bit. I think we all do a great job of this, sharing resources with each other, sharing books. I mean, Roger has dropped off a Critical Conversations book to me at one point. Fiona and I have shared resources about superintendent and board relationships. And most recently, Chris shared a book, How Not to Be a Terrible School Board Member, which I think we should add to our lending library because it has some very useful information in there. And in the introduction, in light of making full transparency that I did not come up with this on my own. I borrowed quite a bit of it from this book, so making it clear that there's no plagiarism concerns on my part. There was an introduction to this book that I thought that it really resonated with me for this year, so I wanted to just share a short, very short, I promise, part that's where the author, Richard Mayer, says, by running for office, you are pledging to do the following. Attend lots of meetings, including regular board meetings, special board meetings, community forums. I added roundtable discussions and committee meetings. Read lots of materials, including agendas, corresponding documents, reports, contracts, articles about education and curriculum, and I added even books about how to be a better board member. We have to listen to lots of public input at regular board meetings, community forums, and special meetings. Attend special school events such as graduations, school performances, and awards nights, which I think is some of the highlight of all of our board service. Make lots of informed decisions by making sure you fully understand and think through each issue you vote on, and play by the rules by following our code of ethics, consulting New Jersey School Boards Association and our board secretary, and going to trainings when possible. When you join the school board, the community sees you as someone they have entrusted with ensuring the best possible education for every child in the school district. This takes your time, your energy, your thinking, and your emotional commitment. So then the part that I wanted to add at the end. So as we begin this new board year, I wanted to take a moment to thanking each and every one of you for your service, your dedication, and your passion that you put towards working for the students of Collingswood Public Schools. This is not always an easy position to hold, but it's an incredibly important one. And we've got a lot to get done this year, and I am fully confident that this board is capable of getting that all done. So here's to a productive and collaborative 2024. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn? And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Happy New Year, everyone, and thank you so much.